So Chris, do you think I should just get like some super tight I shoot raw video t-shirt? Maybe I can sell them.
You know, I consider Jared Polin a good friend, but I think he might sue the shit out of you. Don't do it.
Welcome back, DP Review TV viewers. It is Jordan Drake being filmed in raw video. We've been waiting a long time for this ever since they announced that the Nikon Z6 would be getting a raw firmware update. Now, the camera store was able to get me a Z6 that has that. I've updated my Ninja 5. I'm being filmed in graded raw video right now. How does it look? Now, the contrast of this scene is really high, so we did bring in some light just so I don't have incredibly flat light on me right now. It's a little harsh, but that's the reason for that. All right, so you've already got a Nikon Z6 or Z7. How do you manage to record RAW on those? First, you're gonna have to ship it out to Nikon. It's about a $200 US fee right now. You're also gonna need an Atomos Ninja 5 as the only device right now that's capable of recording the raw signal from those. And then it comes into a nice compact ProRes Raw file. Now we love this because it's compressed RAW, very similar to what we see in the stills world. That means we get tons of flexibility in post, but the file sizes aren't as ridiculous as something that we'd see in the 1DX3 or the Sigma FP, for example. But that future we all dreamed about with seamless RAW recording is not here yet. It does feel a little bit clunky. You lose your electronic viewfinder as soon as you're shooting RAW. On top of that, the magnify on camera doesn't work, so you have to check focus on the Ninja 5, which you also have to use to check your exposure. You'll get completely different exposure from the back of the camera to the recorder. You got to trust the external recorder's version of it. So yeah, you're looking at that screen a lot. So you've shot some gorgeous raw video, and how are you going to edit that? Right now you have to bring it into Apple's Final Cut 10, although we've been told that will be coming to Premiere fairly soon, and those files will just drop right in there, and you've got a couple options on how you want to work with it. You can just use the sliders, and it'll look like any other video you've shot, except those sliders will just let you keep moving and adjusting the exposure. Or if you want to see what you've got very easily, I really like that there's an option to use a raw to log conversion. Right now it works best with Sony's S-Gamut, maybe because Sony's responsible for this sensor. You can read into that however you want, but this is a very straightforward interface once you get it in post, but you got to use Apple's Final Cut. All right, so it's important to touch on the workflow, but I know what you really want to hear about is the image quality of RAW. But before we talk about that, you have to understand what's going on here. When we record internal video with the Z6, it's super sampling the entire sensor, so you're getting all the information from that 24 megapixel image to create a 4K video file. What it's doing when we're recording RAW is, I'm not sure if it's pixel binning or line skipping, I can't get a straight answer on it, but we're not using all that information. The drawback to that is the image is going to be softer than what we see when we record internally, and you can run into some issues like false color and moire like we can see right here. As well, if you're shooting in very low light, the internal recording is much cleaner, both because it's using that full sensor readout and it can apply some noise reduction to it. So this is not something you're going to want to use in low light. So yeah, there are some drawbacks, but we get all the benefits of raw video. First and foremost, dynamic range. If you've got a very high contrast scene, then you can really push, especially bring down an image. Highlights that look like they're completely clipped will be very recoverable, and you can see how much is there when you use those log conversions. Now as well, one of the things we really fight with compressed video is that if you push your white balance much at all, the image falls apart very quickly. Where this is just like when we're working with the still photo, you can really move those colors, change the white balance, warmer, cooler, fight any kind of bright primary colors that are screwing up your image. It's all very reparable, and it can really save you if you're shooting in an unpredictable environment. Okay, so you've got a Nikon Z6 and you're wondering if it's worthwhile to ship it off, get the raw update, and buy a Ninja 5 so you can capture the raw signal. What kind of work is this really going to be useful for you? And I really think it's when you're filmmaking. I do love the look of the skin tones coming out of the raw. They don't have those harsh gradients that you so often see with video, even though I'm sure YouTube is just destroying that right now. And there's certainly ways around some of the moire and aliasing issues. What we've done is actually use some vintage lenses. Chris brought over a basket of old Nikkor AI lenses and an old Takina zoom, and then you're not going to run into that issue as much, but you're still getting a very nice picture, although honestly it isn't the sharpest thing out there. Now bear in mind, some of the issues that I'm seeing with the Z6 here, those are not indicative of compressed RAW recording in general. Those are very specific to this exact setup. Now the Z7 I would expect to be very similar because we are seeing some pixel binning line skipping on its video modes, but we can't say that for certain because I haven't had a chance to test it yet. But if you are looking to do some filmmaking, and especially if the scene is lit where those low light limitations aren't going to be a real problem, I could totally see the Z6 giving you an incredibly flexible image for that. Now, as well, I'm very excited to see the Panasonic S1H, which we're expecting to see ProRes Raw recording, again, externally coming in the future, because that should be the higher resolution 5.9K capture. And we've seen something similar with Panasonic's EVA 1, shoots 5.7K video, and that was one of the nicest RAW images I have ever seen. Hopefully we get something similar from the S1H, but you can be guaranteed we will test it, and if you want to see that test, make sure that you subscribe, follow us on social media, you know, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff, and we will see you all again very soon from DP Review TV.